because this is 9/11, we know that there are people who are still having hard times based on what happened on that day. Certainly it changed the way we look at ourselves in terrorism. So one of the things that I'm going to ask us to do is just spend a moment of silence doing whatever it is that you do. We believe that REACHUP is a place and a platform where we're simply conduits for that process of flying. And so whatever we can do, whenever we can do it, that's what we're here to do. And so thank you for coming, and you're going to be blessed with this workshop this morning. And we look forward to your soaring for yourself first and then for others.
So the title of this piece is titled The Butterfly. Before I knew how to fly, I imagined I would. Soar higher than the leaf I was born on. I thought I could before I knew I would. I thought I would before I knew I could. I was happy where I was, eating my time away, slow to no movement on most days. I thought I could before I knew I would. I thought I would be more than a consumer, more than the skin I was placed in, and though it's beautiful, I knew I would shed this shell one day. The first time I traded my old face for a new one, I noticed my leaf was getting smaller, so I had to move on at my own pace. Totally unaware of any danger, or how delicious my new skin would be to predators, somehow I knew I would, before I finally did fall to sleep. I fell to sleep, but not before I weaved my armor of protection. I had 1,000 dreams on the end of 1,000 wings, then more beautiful than anything I had ever seen. I seen 1,000 flying things I didn't know looked like me until I woke. And when I woke, I couldn't move, but I knew I had to expand and break loose out of this slumber. I couldn't stay here any longer, so I started to stretch, but was met with contention. I needed to expand and spread this new potential. I didn't know I could fly, but I knew I had to. Metamorphosis, 2 births, 1 life, consciousness elevated in stages, each degree needed even when I couldn't see the meaning of living in such lowly conditions or being asleep for so long in a self-created prison. But once I knew how to fly, I knew all that had meaning, divine wisdom. Then I found my queen, familiar. Then she laid our egg on a leaf, similar. Then I retired to a quiet place and released my last exterior. Before I knew how to fly, I imagined I would. Soar higher than the leaf I was born on. I thought I could before I knew I would. I thought I would before I knew I could. Thank you.
Mr. James E. Clark, who's the former Vice President of AT&T and retired Chief Technical Officer of the NCR Corporation. His businesses at AT&T and NCR were among the company's most profitable, with one of his initiatives leading him to representing NCR on one of President Bill Clinton's Digital Divide tours. Prior to joining AT&T, James worked in various product management, engineering, marketing, computer, and research-related capacities at Gould Incorporated, Computer Systems Division, MIT Lincoln Laboratory, Exxon International, Gillette, GE Information Systems, and Florida State University. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and a Master's of Science degree in Marketing and Finance from the MIT Sloan School of Management. He also completed the Global Leadership Program at the University of Michigan and the Senior Management Development Program at Indiana University. He's currently living in Columbia, South Carolina. He's spent more than 25 years serving on numerous boards and foundations. He is an instrument rated and formation pilot and aircraft builder. He is currently committed to further honoring the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, and you get to hear about all of this, so I'm not going into that extensively. He currently serves on the Board of Trustees of Benedict College and the Board of Directors of the Experimental Aircraft Association.
Today, I was asked to share a few experiences and try to put things in context. And the way in which the title of it, I too believe I can fly, and that was so poetically put. I knew I could before I would. I knew I would before I could. That kind of I had not thought of it in those terms, but that captured a lot of what it was all about for me as well. Now, all of you in here are too young to understand what this is all about. Even though you are in Tampa, and there's a certain heritage in Tampa, especially the black community, the Cuban community, and so forth. Tobacco. Have a Tampa, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, where I grew up, the #1 thing that was being grown in that county because of the soil and the skill set of the people was tobacco. Gadsden County was the nation's capital for shade-grown tobacco at one point in time. Shade-grown tobacco is the stuff that you make cigars out of. When you start, you're out there, and if it's the flue-cured or so-called bright tobacco or shade tobacco, some has a little cheesecloth of it, some of it don't. But when you're a kid, you're 10, 12 years old, you're out there working in there, or if you're 60, 70, or 80 years old,
right.
you're out there working in it, and you're out there from this stuff, from this little seedlings, pulling the little seedlings and sticking them in the ground, back breaking one at a time, going down that road from early in the morning to late that day, and you get a little break around 12 o'clock to eat your sandwich, your bologna sandwich, and you get back out and go to work. Now, if you had a good job, you worked in the back barn.
Yeah, I know.
And now, but you were up straddling 2x4s, up 1 or 2 stories high, someone sticking up several sticks of stuff up to you, and you reaching down and bending and grabbing and punching it up. One right after the other, and you straddle like this. If you slip, you fall, that's it, and you are down and you are punching up. That's the backdrop of working hard from a little fella. You know, nobody, you know, who's it, James Brown? You get to understand why James Brown said, "I don't want nobody, huh? Give me nothing. Open up the door. I get it myself."
There you go right there.
Okay? All right? And so you realize that no one's going to give you anything, okay, but you have to set in your mind that if the door is open, if the opportunity presents itself, that you have to be the one to go and get it yourself. So from that, I eventually got to this. And this is not about bragging or anything, so let me be very clear, okay, because there was a lot of struggles. Yeah, I went to a place called MIT, and if you're not familiar with MIT, according to some people, it's the top technological university in the world. A lot of folks were freaked out that a little black kid from Gadsden County would get accepted and make it through. Not just get accepted, because if you get accepted, someone will say, well, you must have been an affirmative action case or something, you know, to go to MIT. Well, I'll tell you, they don't hand out degrees there for free, because the sons and daughters of kings and princes are the ones that go there from the top prep schools. But I was fortunate that I had the ability to go there. And I was fortunate that that allowed me to be in certain circles to make to make the leap to get somewhere else. And I was fortunate, I was blessed in being able to get experiences from places like that. So we got this transition from a little kid working hard, toiling away on the farms, to eventually get into a place like this. So you say, how could something like that happen? Well, a lot of things. A lot of things happen. And something that I don't have on this slide, but I want to say this so I don't forget it. I might mention it again. I went to a school that, in theory, had some of the sharpest minds in the world. But two of the smartest folks that I've ever met were my mom and dad. My mother only got to get to 6th grade because she had to stop and go to work. I'm the youngest child by 10 years. That means my youngest brother is 10 years older than me. Okay? And my mom and dad, my father was about 10 years older than my mother. Okay? And they were together 50, 60 years or whatever till they passed away. My dad only got to go to 2nd grade, but he's one of the smartest folks I knew. What I'm saying here is, you know, this notion of no excuses for being able to lift yourself up and accomplish something was built into me right from the beginning. They did not have the opportunity, okay, but they made the best of the situation that they had. They did not have the opportunity that I had, even though I was working hard and struggling and thought things were rough, okay? But they were making good of it. So what makes all of this possible is, first of all, this notion of small town inspiration plus my own long-term desires, and realizing over time that you have to put forth the effort to A, gain the knowledge and build experience. Let's talk about the small town inspiration. Now, I put it in this context because what I mean is something very simple, nothing fancy, but the notion of a family and a community that cares. A family and a community that expects me to. Expected to be on course, on task, all the time. And because of that, I have come to believe that what is so important to all of us is to have someone that expects you to be able to do better and believe. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to go out and try to fly, literally, but we all can decide to fly figuratively. We can decide that there's this thing that we are going to do. And what we need is family and community, someone around us that cares enough about us to expect the most that we can deliver with. Because once we have that, then we can get to the point where we can believe in ourselves, that you can do better, no matter what task you take on. Now, it is hard to believe in yourself. It is hard to believe that you can rise above if no one else believes or cares. If everyone around you is putting you down and saying that you can't, then I know it is very difficult. Now, but you also have to have long-term desires. You got to be able to think big. Now, some of this stuff probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you, especially those of you that are very, very young. Now, everyone, you all know cell phones and iPads and MacBooks and all that kind of stuff. Well, when I was your age, computers were about the size of this room, half the size of this room. When I was a student, when I was your age, it didn't exist. You could not walk around with a computer in your hands. You know, this didn't just pop out from somewhere, okay? It didn't just show up. How do you think these things came about, huh? Huh? Anybody? Yeah?
Where's people before us?
What?
Where's knowledge, human beings?
There you go, there you go. Somebody had to take a step here, and then they had to take another step. It might have been huge. Then somebody said, you know, I could make that half the size. How do I use my knowledge? Then they got a little smaller.
Obedience.
Then they got a little smaller, okay? Well, way back when I was about your age, I had the audacity to think that you could put one of these things in a briefcase. Man, what is this kid smoking? Because you needed a dump truck almost to carry some of those. But I was at a place where we were being taught the cutting edge of technology, and so we were allowed to think big. And so the idea is not that you necessarily know how to solve just one kind of problem, but you think about how you deal with attacking problems. I remember walking into the laboratory where the person was working on a speech computer. The initial first professor, Professor Kurzweil, was the most noted professor in doing that. And the reason he was able to do that is because there was somebody that was very, very rich who had a family member that was blind. And he wanted someone to invent something and be able to read the books and be able to read the books for her. And he was starting out on it. And even though I had this idea that it ought to be able to, you know, I didn't realize how big a problem it was until I sat in that professor and I figured that maybe I'll let him stay on the lead with that for a while. Thinking big, thinking out of the box, thinking the big thoughts. You need to be able to do that. Okay, thinking the big thoughts. Whether I do it or not is not the important thing. But my willingness, my ability, my concept of being willing to think outside of the box. So I had those kind of big thoughts, and I had those kind of long-term desires. Want to make something, want to run something. But in order to be successful with such, you also must be willing to accept delayed gratification. Now, young man, I'm going to tell you, especially as young black men, one of the problems that I have seen so many of our young men suffer from is the inability to have delayed gratification. Now, let's say I come to you and I say, you know what, I'll tell you what, I got a job for you. You take that job today. I'm going to give you, I'm making up some numbers. I'm going to pay you $10 an hour to work right now. Okay? You say, oh, hey, okay, I'm going to go to work. But what if I came to you and said, I tell you what, I'm going to give you a job, but this job is only going to pay $5 an hour, but it's going to set you up for the job to make $25 an hour. Which one would you take? Invest now to get something bigger later on. Okay? Now, too many times, what folks say, oh man, I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to go with this, as opposed to saying, I'm going to put my head down, and I'm going to work, you know, I'm going to work toward this. I'm going to work to that next step. I'm going to work to that next step. I'm going to work to that next step. Because I see, remember, I got the big dream, I got the big view, I'm looking way further down the road. You know, I'm not just worried about the next turn. I know I got to go on around the curve here a bit, so I've got to invest some time. That's the thing. Because, and then if you are prepared for the delayed gratification, then you can say, one day, I will fly. Because if you just say, well, I got to fly tomorrow, and you go out and someone, bam, smacks you up against the head, you have a setback, you say, well, that's all for that. And you give up. But if you're prepared for the delayed gratification, knowing that you got to work at it over and over and over, you make progress. Just like life, flight itself takes effort. Now in flight, there's two big things that you have to do. You have to do a written exam, and you have to do what's called a practical exam. actual flight test. But that's just like life. And the written exam is like an accumulation of knowledge that you have to do. No matter what you plan to do in life, you have to accumulate a certain amount of knowledge that's associated with that thing. No matter what it is. You need to understand certain things about it. And then the practical exam is about the experience. For knowledge, you got to study. Sometimes the study is in books. Sometimes the study is, on the job. You're really understanding. You're working with someone. But when you're doing that, you gotta get the fundamentals. You gotta get the basics. There was someone here that said that you did some construction. Which one? There's some construction, and then someone was out here. Right here. Okay. It doesn't matter what part you're doing, but you gotta start understanding the basic stuff, the fundamentals. You gotta spend time, invest time to understand exactly what the baseline stuff is before you can go to the next level. Now that's necessary, but it's not sufficient. If you can get an A in school, which is fantastic, you get an A in school. But that in and of itself doesn't do it, okay? That's not by itself. If you can have all the A's in the world and not be able to do anything with it. But while you're out there trying to learn and get that knowledge, no matter what mechanism it is, there's an old expression, by the way, don't let schooling get in the way of your education. Let me say that again, okay? Okay, now I'm one of these folks that happen to go to all these schools and so forth, but that's not what the hill of beans, as my dad would say, okay? Okay, so in other words, don't let schooling get in the way of your education. When the biggest fool in the world can be an educated fool. Y'all hear me? Okay. In other words, you can learn from every place you go in life. You can learn from every station in life. You can learn from every pursuit of life that you take. My mother said made one of the most profound statements when I was trying to go to deciding what school to go to. And I had the opportunity to go to this, highfalutin school, the school, blah, blah. I mean, it was, the cat's meow, okay? She know what she said to me in her quiet way? I'm from up there near Tallahassee. She looked at me and said, there's more at A&M than you'll ever learn. Deep. Now, at first, it may sound like she was putting me down, right? But no. That was a much deeper statement that she was saying. She was saying, it doesn't matter so much where you go, it's how you apply yourself. That means if you apply yourself no matter where you are, you can always learn. There's always more to learn everywhere you go at every station in life. So you must be continuously curious. You must always want to know a little more. You must always have a question. You must always want to challenge. You must always be willing to understand deeper. And then you must be able to apply that knowledge. Now, applying that knowledge requires experience. It takes time. It's something that you have to work at. You get experience by doing stuff. You don't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I got experience." You get experience no matter what the task is by doing it and learning from others. Now, we all, to get experiences, we all need mentors, teachers, instructors, whatever you want to call it. Because nobody's perfect. Nobody knows everything. There's always someone before you that knows more about something. But in order for you to do that, you have to have that continuous curiosity, and you must have the fundamentals. You must have spent the time to get some fundamentals. This thing started out saying, "I believe I can fly." If you set things as a goal, if you set things as a dream, then you can achieve them. But the reality is, sometimes you have to build your own dreams. Anybody have a guess as to what this might be? It's an airplane. Yep. Okay. Now, Any idea where this airplane may have come from? Say again? Say it a little louder.
You built it.
Yes, sir. That airplane, myself and a lady by the name of Patty, we built it. With a mentor, with an instructor, getting the fundamentals. You too. You can build one. So you can build your own dreams. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't. It's a step, one step at a time, based on the fundamentals, having that long view, getting help from others, having people that believe. Now, of course, it doesn't always look pretty. Okay? And just like life, there will be people that will question you. And just like life, people will look at you, and when they first see you, they will believe there is no way for this to be. And just like life, some folks will look at you, and that's what they will see. They'll say, well, wait a minute, that thing there is way too raggedy in order to fly. You know, that gentleman there, he's too raggedy. He doesn't have the stuff, he doesn't have all the pieces put together the right way in order to fly. Oh, no way am I going to get in that. Excuse me.
That's because they don't know.
Hello, say it again.
That's because they don't know.
Because they don't know. Because they don't know. Because they don't know. Because they don't know that sometimes there is a master plan. They don't know that sometimes there is the master's work at play. They don't know that sometimes that the master is what pulled us apart this way and made it look raggedy in order to put it back together such that later on it looks like that.
They got somebody know what they're doing to it.
Hello, that right there is the exact same plane, the red and white one, all that torn apart stuff, I did it. So I was okay with it.
Because you know what.
Because I know what's in it. So I believe in it. And that's what you got to do. You got to believe in what's in it. You got to believe in what's in it. What's in it. You got to believe that it can fly. You got to know that it can fly because you put your heart and soul into it. Now, you set these kind of dreams. It's important that you enjoy the process of not only fulfilling, but sharing those dreams. Okay? Now, I ended up with, in that particular plane, flying with what became the world's largest formation aerobatic team. Formation means together as a team, with one leader, with trust. Now, I'll show you a couple of pictures later on. Formation means that one is lined up perfectly with the other, and they build an image in the sky. There's only one guy up front that's leading, and everybody else is locked on to their position and trusting that person right there, their team member, is going to do exactly the right thing. Trusting that they're not going to run them into the ground. Trusting that they're not going to run them into anything else. Trusting that they're going to fly in a way that they can stay right there. And the person over there has to trust that I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to bail out. I'm not going to run into them. I'm going to be exactly where I need to be. Looks like something really bad's about to happen, doesn't it? Looks like it's about to be a bad day in the neighborhood, doesn't it? Okay. That's me right there. Okay. It looks like it's a really bad day in the neighborhood. But the reality is, this is all about teamwork, trust. That's the number one word. Trust. Trust, teamwork, discipline, develop skills. You know, folks see us as an overnight sensation, but that was 10 years in the making. Okay? It was 10 years to be able to do that without killing each other. The reality is, this is a coordinated effort based on a lot of energy put forth in building something. Now, that's a beautiful picture. I mean, pretty amazing picture. Even for pilots that do it all the time, they look at it and say, oh my goodness, you know, okay? So such dreams and accomplishments like that are wonderful. There's no free lunch. Doesn't just happen. But crew, anybody here know what crew is? Ever heard of crew? What's crew? Normally, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But in terms of the sport, you ever heard of the sport crew? Rowing. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you something about that in a second. In just a second. So I too had struggles as well along the way. But the key thing is, in life, with regard to accomplishments, you fall down and you get up. And I view as part of my accomplishments is falling down and getting back up. More than one time in my life that were really big deals. I had struggles along the way with what I wanted to do, what school, what classes, what directions, and even with the successes that I had along the way. The other thing is that when you go through all this and the opportunities come about, there will be times when you have to trust that intuition here. Because if you have gotten the experiences, if you have gotten the knowledge, it's not, people say, trust your gut. Well, it's not that you're trusting just your gut. What you're doing is you're bringing it back all those experiences and all that knowledge base that you built up over the years. That's what you're integrating together all in a very quick moment. There will be times when you have to trust that intuition here. Because if you have gotten the experiences, if you have gotten the knowledge, it's not, people say, trust your gut. Well, it's not that you're trusting just your gut. What you're doing is you're bringing it back all those experiences and all that knowledge base that you built up over the years. That's what you're integrating together all in a very quick moment. And while you're doing these things, you have to be true to yourself. You got to ask yourself, what's important to me? What's important in my heart? And then you have to believe in yourself, believe in your team, and believe that you can do it. Crew, that's right. When I got to MIT, crew, I didn't know what crew was, and I never seen a crew. Crew was a very, 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 very rich white kid sport for the most part. I mean, the top prep schools, high schools, affording way back in the day, the boats costing more than a car. One boat, just costing more than a car for kids to just roll, for just 3 or 4 kids to roll on the water. So anyway, this is in the fall of 1972. Now we're talking about opportunity and believing. In 1972, a group of 8 guys from Harvard, actually in a crew team, went to the Olympics, and they became silver medal. They got the silver medal. They were bad mamma jammas. I mean, they were dealing it. And back in those days, the German and the Russian teams were the best in the world because that's what they did for a living. Okay, that's what they did day in, day out. So for the U.S. team to come in second, a silver medalist, they were racking them up and knocking them down. Okay, they were doing it. Okay, this is like they were operating at the Michael level, the Jordan level. Okay, in that sport. Okay. All right, they were operating at the Tiger level in their sport. All right. Now, so there's a race in the Boston area in Cambridge along the Charles River called the Head of the Charles. It's the biggest race of its kind in the world. These guys have just won the silver medal at the Olympics. Okay. There's an 8-man oarsman shell. 8 guys rowing, and the guy in the back is called the coxswain. He's the person that's the coach in the boat, steers the boat, motivates, strategy, and all that stuff, okay? So their coach took the best 4 guys of the stern 4 of the Olympic silver medalists, and they put them in the Head of the Charles in the United States, and they were expected to just blow the doors off everybody, okay? Now, remember what I said, crew is typically a very, very rich white kid sport. Black kids, doing. Well, lo and behold, here you got a crew that's 40% black. It turns out our coach decided to enter a 4 in the elite category. Now, I wasn't the lead coxswain. And by the way, this is me back there. Had a little more hair then. And I was 60, 70 pounds lighter then. And he decided to put this boat in. and decided to put me in charge of that boat. Now the #1 coxswain had a big boat. He was running an 8 in the 8 series, and this is the Elite 4s. So he decided to put me in a boat with my brother there, Greg Chisholm, who's good buddies with Deborah there, to go up against the Olympic silver medalist. Now that race is over 3 miles long, and this is coming around the last quarter-mile stretch and so forth. Each boat is started 10 seconds apart, and you win races by about 1/10 of a second. So you start, you might not move any on the next boat, the top class boats, maybe a few feet. Sometimes races are won by a distance, what's called by the ball of the boat. There's a little ball in the boat. That space there, sometimes races are won by that space there. As we are approaching one of the Harvard boathouses there, these guys from Harvard, I heard over the loudspeaker the announcer say, "Ladies and gentlemen, coming around the bend here is the stern 4, Olympic stern 4 of Hobbs, Livingston, and Livingston, passing the MIT 4. Now you can't see the numbers, but if he'd just taken a second, he would have realized that our number was a higher number, and we had caught the Olympic silver medalist, which means that we were blowing them away not by 1/10 of a second, but by 10 seconds. Yes, we did win. Not only did we beat them, we won the race, and that next year represented the United States, you know, in rowing at the international level. So the point is, you gotta believe that you gotta believe in yourself and your crew. Now, first flights is like taking a big risk of life. A first flight of an airplane, whether it's one you built or whether it's any other plane, it can be a scary experience. It's something you remember for life. It's a unique achievement. But all of us have opportunities for first flights, for doing those unique things. So whatever your dream is, you pick it. And now, once you do that, once you have found that dream, and you've taken that first flight, and it can be as simple as taking on a new job, then you need to expand the envelope. For me, it turns out in flying was formation clinics, and where I started giving them more and more, and then doing aerobatics. For you, it could be your big dream or your biggest fear. And sometimes your biggest dream and your biggest fear are the same thing. Okay? So you got to take them on. Then you need to expand the envelope. For me, it turns out in flying was formation clinics, and where I started giving them more and more, and then doing aerobatics. For you, it could be your big dream or your biggest fear. And sometimes your biggest dream and your biggest fear are the same thing. And so you got to get to the point where, you know, you're willing, it's okay for the airplane to be pointed straight up. Okay? Now, there was a time when that would have bothered me. Okay? You know, that would have bothered me a lot. Okay? Now for me, I did that formation and aerobatics. But for formation flying, is trusting the team. And I keep coming back to this thing about team, because no man is an island. You work with others. You work with people that are around you. And this is about trusting the team. And this is this particular shot, the red and white, and that's obviously me there. But everyone is in a particular place, trusting that the other person is going to be there. And the aerobatic stuff is about trusting yourself. It's okay sometimes to be upside down. Hello? It's okay sometimes to be upside down. Do you think the airplane knows or worries about it upside down? No. Where is it? It's all up here. Because the physics will let you know that you can roll the airplane right back up. And remember, sometimes you fall down. It's not that you fall down, but it's that you do what? That you get back up. It's not that I'm upside down, but just that I roll it back up.
Great. I'll send you one.
Once you get that in your head about life,
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
then you realize, oh, wait a minute, that's not such a big thing at all. And that's the thing that I want you to take away. I want to leave you with a couple of quick notes, though. As you go through this, I talk about team, people that care, people that make it possible for you. No matter what you do going forward, make sure you remember those that made it possible. And my tip of the hat is to the Tuskegee Airmen. You've all probably heard a lot about them. These were the gentlemen, we talk about having tough times. These guys, the guys that had a tough time. But their efforts, their view of rise above all the discrimination, rise above all the tough times, led to the desegregation of the armed forces. So the military now is not segregated because of in part because of the efforts of these guys. I'm not going to try to tell their story here, but you got to acknowledge people like that. And one of the things that I personally plan to do is to give back to those who made it possible. And so right now, I am now working on a project, a plane that will eventually look like this, that I'll be able to make the rounds and give people in rides in it and tell the story of those gentlemen. Now, if you put all these things together that I've been talking about, then one day you can, quote unquote, make the big leagues. Okay? The suits look, we got all kinds of comment about the flight suits. But we wear those flight suits quite actually for not so much to look cool as much, because actually they're very hot.
Protect yourself. Yeah.
There you go. My man's got it. Those are fire retardant suits. Okay. If there was ever a crash, and there was a fire, that's why that's why we wear.
So you protect the end looking good.
What's that?
You protect the end looking good.
Oh yeah, well, there you are. Got to look good though, right? you gotta look good. And this particular picture, this particular. Hang on a second. This particular picture, we had to, we had to come out with a step. Now, from this, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to have just a little bit of fun here, share something with you. I'm going to, in the last year or so, I haven't been flying with the team, but I've flown with this team over at some level from the very beginning for about 10 years, and we've reached a certain level. And so I'm going to share with you. And when I start this, if you would turn the lights off, once I get this started here.
right?
Any questions? Anyone?
Let me, before we answer some questions, I'm just going to put him on the spot. And I just want to introduce, this is sponsored by the 24/7 Dad program. You all saw that on the flyers. And we just happen to have our wonderful contract manager from the Children's Board, Shelton Gilliard. So I just want, he didn't think he was going to be able to get here, but we just want to. And all those guys back there finished the 24/7 Dad program. So, and some of the others as well. So we're glad that you got here to be able to see this and see them. And we want to thank you. He's fairly new to us, but he's working hard for us. And so we just really want to take this opportunity to recognize you and thank you for the work that you're doing with the 24/7 Dad program for us.
Excuse me.
I appreciate it. I'm glad I made it.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can we give Mr. Ricardo a round of applause too?
All right, all right.